So it's the day after the game. We've made it back to Zurich Airport. Loads of shenanigans. We had a train booked and we weren't guaranteed that the train would get us back in time. And then panicking last night, decided to book a bus which was only going to leave Freiburg at 5:30 in the morning to get us back to Basel in order to then for us to catch a train from Basel back to Zurich. And then we decided against that, and we ended up booking a cab for 7 people, thankfully, which wasn't too bad, which cost us €30 each, €200 in total. But it got us to Basel, then we could catch the train from there back to Zurich. So we'd made it back. And I guess that part of the journey weren't as bad. But it's been expensive. The flights out here, stopping off, nothing direct, and then hotel accommodation, this, that and the other. By the way, don't come to Switzerland, Basel or Zurich, it costs an arm and a leg. Really expensive. But I guess if you're rich, don't matter, does it? Anyway, another quick reflection on the game from last night. Start off with the team news. We knew Fabianski will start. I was actually quite surprised that we had such a strong lineup, but then you wouldn't have thought it, would you, given the performances that were put in last night. But apart from Fabianski, it was the same team that started out in the last 2 games that we won against Brentford and Everton. But the performance was completely different. The performance that we put out last night was a bit back to what a lot of people are suggesting was, back to a bit of Moyes ball. It was not on the front foot. It was poor. It was lacking in energy, lacking in sort of approach, etc. And it was frustrating. The first half was quite nondescript. The first half was really quite poor from both sides, really. And no one sort of deserved to be on the up. We kind of evened ourselves out. I think we had 1 chance in the first half, more or less. But we were wasteful. Throughout the whole game, we were wasteful. I saw a stat that Paqueta's passes, 23 passes didn't go to any of our players. Misplaced passes by Paqueta. He had a really poor game. But then if you look across the team, and you could, going back from the back, you could argue that Zuma had a poor game. It was his fault for their goal. It was also his fault for their goal because Alvarez started it off by giving the ball away. But Zuma just can't play. I'm really, really surprised that he was picked to play last night, given that that would have been his 3rd game in 7 days. He just doesn't have any pace. He doesn't look like he can turn. You play him once a week and you might get a half-decent performance out of him. But you put him in for 3 games in the space of a week or so, and he's going to suffer. And he suffered last night. So Zuma was ball watching when their player got in to score their one and only goal. Creswell, who came on for Emerson, also ball watching. The player got in between him and Zuma. Creswell, as he's been sort of, people have said about him before, he positionally, people are going to say, because he hasn't played regularly, but he's a seasoned pro, Creswell, and he would have known he should have been looking out for a run, but he didn't pick up the striker either. So you had Zuma and Creswell ball watching. But before that, you had Alvarez, who just needlessly gave the ball away, which started their attack. So Alvarez didn't have a great game. Zuma didn't have a great game. Emerson apparently was playing with an injury and then ended up having to go off with a groin strain. We don't know now. Let's hope it's not too serious. But you can imagine that Emerson will be out for a couple of weeks. So that means that Moyes is going to have to either rely on Creswell or bring Ben Johnson in. For me, it's got to be Ben Johnson. He's more mobile than Creswell. Alvarez, like I said, didn't have a good game. And then Ward-Prowse just went through yet another game of not really offering anything. Just not surprised that he was taken off. And then up front, we didn't have our shooting boots on. We had chances last night. No one can deny we didn't have chances. We had more than enough chances to try and win the game, but we didn't take them. And then, as I said, Paqueta, kept constantly giving the ball away last night. It was just a poor performance all round. So you've got players on the pitch that have got to take some level of blame for the performance that we put in. And then you've got to look at Moyes. And the thing that, does frustrate me, and I understand why it frustrates many fans, is that when you're looking for something different tactically, a change in formation or something different, Moyes didn't do it. At 60, 65, even 70 minutes, Moyes should have just made 2 changes before they went a goal up. He should have put Antonio on. I know we shouldn't be relying on Antonio at this stage. We should have an proper alternative striker. But he should have brought someone like Antonio on to run at them for like 15, 20 minutes, and he didn't do that. If it had brought Phillips on sooner as well, I would have been all right with that, to try and shore up the midfield too, because Ward-Prowse wasn't in the game. He could have also gone with Danny Ings. When Danny Ings played as a number 10 against Sheffield United a few weeks ago, he actually played quite well. And since then, we haven't seen him. He hasn't been around. Nothing's happened with Danny Ings. This is the other frustrating thing. Moyes does something which works. He had Ben Johnson and Danny Ings in sort of midfield against Sheffield United. It worked, and then he just dropped that approach and just hasn't played it since. And that gets really frustrating. But the other thing is our squad. And the thing that we all feared, and I've been talking about, is that now that we don't have enough depth in the squad, we're going to suffer. You were looking on the bench and you're looking for inspiration, and it just wasn't there. And I think that's going to bite us, in the bum, really. Look, it is all to play for. I'm not even going to talk about the penalty. People are saying it was, people are saying it wasn't. I don't care. We didn't deserve anything out of that game. And if we'd have gotten a penalty, would I have taken a draw? Of course I would have done. But it's only half time, which means that now we've got to go. They've got to come to us. They're going to park the bus. They're going to make it really difficult for us. They're going to try and nick another goal, which I'm sure they're more than capable of. I do actually think we'll get through. I do think we'll beat them, even though it's an early 5:45 start. I think it's still going to be. There's going to be enough of an atmosphere to actually get us over this hurdle. If I think about Seville a couple of years ago when we were 1-0 down, when we played at their ground, and when they came back to our ground, and it was one of the best nights in Europe, the best nights at the London Stadium. I'm not thinking that we're going to get to that level, because there's something about this particular European tour, as opposed to the last two, feels a bit different. It all feels a little bit flat in a way. When we got to Freiburg on Wednesday, people were out, were in bars and having fun, drinking, singing and all that sort of stuff. But there was something a little bit sort of subdued about this particular European tour. It's not got the same kind of buzz as the first Europa League tour had, and certainly not last season's Europa Conference League tour. There's something lacking, and not only do you feel that amongst the fans, you also feel it with the players as well, and the way we're playing and so forth. We're labouring, we're making hard work of it, and that then sort of, goes on to the fans. It feels like hard work. For the first time, and on our European away game, it felt like a bit of a labour of love coming out here. Excited, of course, but apprehensive at the same time, because this could be the last one. This game against Freiburg could be the last one if we don't win. My gut tells me we've got one more. But then you look at the teams that are through, almost through. Liverpool are going to be through. Milan are likely to get through. Roma smashed Brighton 4-0. They'll be through. Leverkusen, although they drew 2-2, you'd expect them to go through. So the teams that are kind of favourites, there's one team I'm kind of hoping for. If we get through and Rangers get through, I'm kind of hoping we get Rangers in the next game, because that will then, if we beat them, we'll be in the semi-finals, and then it's anyone's guess. But The big teams, 3 Italian teams, Milan, Atalanta and Roma, are all likely to go through, and my gut tells me we're probably going to get, if we get through, we'll get an Italian team, and then you can't see us getting through that stage. But I guess, football is strange. Anything can happen. We weren't given a cat in hell's chance against Seville a couple of years ago, and then we weren't given any chance against Lyon when we got them, but we beat both of them. So you never know. But it's going to be more difficult this year. And if we do go out of Europe in this competition, then we've got to play for at least a 7th place finish. Can be done, I guess. But let's hope we keep up the momentum. But the squad is what we all thought. It's a bit short in bit short in quality, bit short in numbers, and that is likely to come back and bite us. Anyway, it is what it is. We're waiting for the plane now to get back home. It'd be nice to have a few days off and then back again on Sunday against Burnley. What could possibly go wrong there? Stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be more updates over the next few days.